I didn't think we'd see the day that Gervonta Davis would be getting called out by media, especially the mainstream media. Just recently, the biggest casual in the sport of boxing, Stephen A. Smith, called him out. We've seen Stephen A. Smith actually call out, now Tank and Canelo Alvarez, the two possible biggest names in the sport, for ducking. And in this podcast, he said, don't duck the rematch. You were a heavy favorite going into the fight. Odd makers had it at 20-1, I believe. And then it went down to like 15 or 16-1 the day of the fight. But nonetheless, man, I didn't think we'd see this day. I really didn't. I mean, and one thing that I liked that he called out was he responded to people saying, oh, now Gervonta Davis is getting the most amount of hate. Gervonta Davis has not been hated on. He's been protected by media. Every single media interview he does, or media gathering, whatever, they're always asking him weak questions, not asking any tough questions on, let's say, why aren't you fighting Shakur? Why are you ducking? But I just love seeing it now. Obviously a lot of people are going to feel he lost the fight. I believe he lost the fight. Stephen A. Smith says he lost the fight. Lots of members. I mean, we're seeing Lamont Roach, almost celebration parade. We've seen him on all kinds of platforms now. He was on Cam and Mace's podcast talking about the fight. So many other, media platforms. He's getting all the love right now, and he deserves it. I think he won that fight. But it just shows how weak of a champion Gervonta Davis is. And if he were to retire today, he's not a Hall of Famer at all. The toughest fight of your career, you cherry-picked and had a guy come up from 130 pounds that had no power going into the fight. And you got bullied and really lost. 8-4, 9 rounds to 3. Even without the knockdown, you lost. But, the Tank Knee Pad boys are going to say different. They're going to be protecting him and, talking crazy in the comment section. But I'm glad to see it, man. And I honestly, at first, when I was starting to think about the rematch, on how the rematch would look, I kind of was favoring Tank Davis just for the simple fact that if you win 8 or 9 rounds against Tank Davis and you end up with a draw, I don't know how else you're going to win the fight. You can't. The only way you'd have to beat him is knocking him out. And Tank has shown himself to be durable. I mean, he got hurt a couple times in that fight, but he continued to, stay there in the fight. But I honestly think the only way Lamont Roach can win the fight is by knockout. It's a tough task to, knock a Tank Davis out who's never, well, he did get dropped. He took a knee last fight, but visibly hurt and dropped. Tank has shown himself to be durable. Now, I don't know if it's possible, but I mean, going into that fight, I was not expecting Lamont Roach to perform the way he did. I always thought Lamont Roach was a solid fighter, but we've seen him lose in the past, and I know that was years ago. And he wasn't a lightweight. He was a super featherweight coming into that fight. But nonetheless, I think he'll win. If the fight was actually scored right and there wasn't politics and there wasn't robbery and thing like that would take place, then I would pick Lamont Roach to win the fight. But if, winning 8 or 9 rounds of the fight gets you a draw, then I don't know how else. You have to win every single round in order to win by a point or two. It's just kind of ridiculous. I mean, we see this with guys like Tank, Canelo, guys like Chavez in the past. They come into the fight already up 4 rounds before the first bell rings. It's messed up, but it is what it is. I mean, De La Hoya, I guess was the same way, but when he became promoter, I mean, it's like he would pay off some of these judges before the fight. But nonetheless, man, I really, I hope the rematch happens. because I think it'll look the same. If not, Lamont might have to do a little bit more, but we'll see what happens, man. Let me know what you guys think. Hate, like, comment, subscribe.